When you see these animals in captivity, you notice, of course, that they're at the surface a lot. That's actually completely unnatural. In nature, they're at depth because all of their life is below the surface. Their food is below the surface. Their socializing is below the surface. Their mating is below the surface. They don't do much at the surface. They breathe at the surface. Sometimes they socialize at the surface. Sometimes they travel at the surface. And when they're traveling at the surface, for example, when they're resting, they aren't going much below 3 to 4 meters. And then they come back up to breathe. And then they go down to about 3 to 4 meters. And then they come up to breathe. And that's how they rest. So only very short periods of time are they going to be oriented toward the surface. But even then, they're not at the surface very often. In captivity, it's all about the surface. It's where their food comes from. It's where their trainers are. It's where everything is. Their whole life is oriented toward the surface. That's unnatural. It exposes them to the sun even more when they're in a climate like this. And I also think it causes eye problems because they're getting a lot more UV radiation exposure to their eyes than would ever happen in nature. So there are, and in fact, of course, it results in the most infamous condition that everybody notices about captive orcas versus wild ones, which is the collapsed dorsal fin. Because they're always at the surface, they're born normal, but as they grow and their dorsal fin gets taller and taller, gravity starts to pull it over because they're at the surface all the time. It's the biggest difference that you see between wild and captive, and it's all about how their whole world is literally turned upside down. From focusing everything, food, socialization, resting, everything's below the surface, suddenly everything's up here. And that's just as unnatural as it gets.